Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Italian Cooking for Shut-ins. I am super excited to show you how to make pasta fagioli tonight. This recipe is perfect for the kind of conditions we're living in right now because all of the ingredients, save for one or two optional ingredients, are ones that can be easily stored for an indefinite period of time in your cabinet or your freezer. And it's delicious. So it's works out kind of well that we have an easy, simple, budget-friendly, delicious meal that your whole family will love. So to begin, I'm going to start with our usual lesson. I'm going to be doing my hand washing. Ever important. I suppose we could skip this step. Everyone thinks they know how to wash their hands, but it's more important than ever that we take this presumably very simple task not for granted. We take it seriously because the lives of ourselves and our loved ones could depend on it. Wash our hands and off we go. So basically, pasta fagioli is kind of like Italian chili. The key ingredients are beans, some kind of ground meat, and a tomatoey base. And then beyond all of that, it's extra flavor. So we begin by heating up some oil I'm using olive oil. We heat the olive oil on a medium temperature. And you could use any other kind of neutral vegetable oil for this process. And the reason I'm heating oil is because I'm going to saute some garlic. And I want the garlic to add some flavor to what it is that we're making. I'm using the easily used minced garlic that you can buy at the grocery store or hopefully order online and go for delivery pickup. Sauteing the garlic will add flavor to the dish, and in my opinion, you can never have too much garlic. I've just put in a couple of heaping teaspoons worth, and that should be sufficient to get us started. Along with the garlic, I'm going to saute some zucchini. I have here chopped up a medium zucchini, and I like to add a green vegetable to my pasta fagioli. You don't have to use zucchini if that's not something your family enjoys. Alternatives, one I like a lot but my boys don't like so much, is green bell pepper. Another easy to use alternative would be frozen green beans or green beans that have been softened by boiling first. By adding green vegetables to the dish, which I'm sauteing with the garlic, what this does is it enables you to get your vegetables in that you hopefully will serve with each meal into one dish. So I'm sauteing the zucchini and the garlic together so that the zucchini will get a little bit of a brown surface. I want the zucchini to have a brown surface because I guess you could say what it does is it seals the taste of the zucchini in. And by doing that, when I put all of the other ingredients together with the zucchini, I still get the separate flavor of that zucchini rather than sort of a uniform flavor across the whole dish. So as I saute the onion and the garlic, or the garlic and the zucchini together, I'm waiting for it to look a little bit browned on each side. And that should take just a few minutes, and I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, so I turned up the heat a little bit to get a nice brown to a medium-high heat, around between 6 and 7 on my stove setting. And as you can see here, we've got a little bit of a brown coating on the zucchini. And now what I'm going to do is turn the heat back down to a medium-high, or medium-low, about 4 on the setting. And I'm going to add onions. This is one chopped onion. And again, again, this is optional. I'm adding these sauteed vegetables in order to add a little bit of body and flavor to the dish. However, these are not necessary if you don't have them handy. If these aren't something that you eat, it's not required. The idea here is to make things that you're going to enjoy eating. So what I'm doing here is I'm sauteing the onion with the zucchini and the garlic until the onion softens. While those are sauteing, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, I pour the salt into my hand for distribution. That way, in case there's an incident, I've not risked the quality of my dish. In there. And if I pour it out a little bit too much, I don't have to keep. And I'm also going to use Signor Mario here to add some fresh ground pepper. This just gives the dish a nice base. And it's to this sauteed vegetable mixture that we'll add the ground meat. And for this dish, really, so I use ground turkey. We like it because it's low in fat. It has a low carbon emissions rating, so it's leaner and greener than using ground beef. But ground beef is certainly an option. You could use ground chicken. Hunters, you could use your ground venison for this dish. Really, just about any ground meat that you might want to include is an option. We have really enjoyed turkey. We haven't found, since we've really kind of stopped using ground beef, we haven't really found that it's changed the kinds of things that we put ground meat in. Things like pasta fagioli, cowboy joes, sloppy joes, chili. Turkey seems to be a perfectly fine substitute for us. So that's what we'll be adding in just a bit here after the onions soften. Now I'll point out that I'm cooking this dish after a 9-hour workday at home. And I mention that just to highlight how easy this dish is to make. It probably takes about half an hour from start to finish. And it's kind of a nice way to chill a little bit after I've been working hard at the computer. It also makes for a very comforting meal, particularly on these rainy spring days. All right, so it looks like our onions are getting soft. And now I'm going to add our ground meat. So we have in here now 2 roughly heaping teaspoons of minced garlic, a medium zucchini cut in or diced, and a diced onion. And now I'm adding 2 pounds of ground meat. Okay, so if you're not a vegetable fan, you could skip right to this phase of browning the meat. What I would do if you're using a lean meat like ground turkey, ground chicken, potentially ground pork as well, I would maybe add a little bit of oil to the pan. If you're using ground venison that doesn't have fat added to it, I would add a little bit of oil to the pan for that as well. Ground beef, you probably do not need to add oil unless it's a very, very lean ground beef. Actually, ground bison would work as well. That would probably be very delicious. And to brown the meat, you would just heat up that oil on a medium temperature. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, between, say, 5 and 6. And you just Let it cook until it gets brown. I'm mixing it in with the vegetables to kind of flavor everything together. And then I'm going to put a lid on the pot. And what that's going to do is help this brown a little bit quicker. It holds the heat in. It'll help it brown more quickly, and it's more energy efficient because you're not letting that heat escape. So when this gets brown, I will come back. All right, just to illustrate, I'm going to take off the lid and give it a little stir. So we're looking brown, but we're not there yet. But in order to get the full brown, you'll need to remove the lid and occasionally give the meat a stir. It also helps to break it up into little bite-sized pieces. All right. Put the lid on again and let her rip. All right, so I've got browned meat, as you can see. All right, so the next stage, once you have the meat brown, that's when you add your beans and your tomato-based sauce. I'm going to be adding cannellini beans. I'm adding two 15.5-ounce cans that have been drained. You don't want to add the bean juice, just the beans. So you add your 2 cans of drained beans. You could also use, cannellini beans are known as white kidney beans, so you may see them listed as that in your grocery store. You could also use Great Northern beans. Any kind of white bean should work. I'm a huge fan of cannellini beans. They're a great source of healthy carbs and fiber, and they add very important body to this dish. Oftentimes, beans stick to the bottom. We want all of them. Nothing goes to waste. Okay. For the tomatoes, what I'm adding are two 28-ounce cans of chopped tomatoes or diced tomatoes. And you can basically use any kind that you want. I like the Dei Fratelli Italian seasoned tomatoes. I like their herb and olive oil. And I ended up using these by accident one time and actually really liked the flavor. They're a little on the expensive side. You could easily use store brand or Hunt's or whatever chopped tomatoes. It really doesn't matter. You can add your own seasoning. It's just that this was simple and we like it a lot. So I'm going to add both of those cans. Okay. And then I'm going to add just a few extra herbs. If you get seasoned tomatoes, it's probably not as big of a deal. I like to add a little bit anyway. I'm going to be adding oregano. Just kind of giving a light coat to the surface. I don't ever measure this stuff, but that should give you an idea of how much I coat it. And then I'm also going to use marjoram. That's another one I like to mix with oregano when I'm cooking Italian food. Okay. Then I'm going to stir it up, mix everything well. What I want this to do is come to a boil, which it looks like it may have already, and then let it simmer. And you can simmer it as short or as long as you like. But the longer that you simmer it, the more flavor it's going to have. And then, of course, it will have more and more flavor the more days you have it. Oh, and another tip too is if you use ground beef or another kind of fatty meat, before adding the beans, I would recommend draining that fat out so you don't have a greasy dish. I don't usually drain the ground turkey because there's not a ton of fat, and the fat that's there, honestly, I kind of like it. So we leave it in, and it adds a little bit of extra meaty flavor to the broth that this dish has. Okay, so this is what it looks like. All right, we want that to simmer, and as I mentioned, as short or as long as you like, as long as it's heated through, it's pretty much ready. And the nice thing about it too is that this recipe will probably serve the three of us, me, my husband, and my teenage son, for 3 meals. If I made an even bigger batch, this meal is very amenable to freezing. So you could make some and save it for later. If you don't want to cook lots of times, just cook a whole bunch and stick it in the freezer. This should be very amenable to that. The only thing left that I have to do is what's pasta fagioli without the pasta, right? So I'm going to cook the pasta. In my perfect world, the pasta that I would use is the little mini shells. What I love about the mini shells is that they collect the juice, and they're just like little tiny wine goblets of deliciousness of tomato juice. But we don't have those. So we're going to use the next best thing. We're using elbows. And again, I'm using the Barilla brand. I like that, but store brand would be perfectly fine too. And I like the whole grain. The whole grain pasta has more fiber in it, and which reduces the glycemic load of the pasta. Which interestingly, so does the tomato sauce. So that works out well. So I'm going to cook my whole grain elbows according to the instructions on the package, and serve those with the pasta fagioli. Finally, when I serve the pasta fagioli, I make sure to have grated Parmesan cheese on the table. Honestly, any store brand Parmesan cheese is fine. This is the Hy-Vee store brand. Kraft would be fine. And you could get fancy too and actually get a block of Parmesan and shred it yourself. It just kind of depends on what you have available and what you have the time for, and all of it's okay. Remember, this is your kitchen. And I guess that's all I have for today. It's like I said, it's a very, very simple meal. I hope that you enjoy it, and if you give it a try, that you let me know how it goes. Take care and have a good night. Ciao. Okay, I lied. I couldn't resist showing you how to plate the pasta fagioli. Shouldn't take it for granted that everyone knows this special trick. So I've got the pasta boiled now, and for the 3 of us, for 3 nights, I boiled a little over half a box of elbow noodles. And to make sure that they don't stick together, as I do with all pasta that I cook, I'm adding a little bit of the juice of the pasta fagioli to the pasta, like so. Just mix it up, like so. One escaped. All right, then to plate it, pretty simple. Take a spoonful of noodles, maybe a little more than a spoonful, like so. And I pile on the pasta fagioli. Very hearty meal, especially delicious for rainy days, which I expect we'll have a lot this spring. And then for the finishing touch, we add our Parmesan cheese. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy your meal.